Welcome everyone to the latest edition of the Sightscreen Cricket Journal podcast. I'm Tawhid Qureshi. I know we haven't had one of these podcasts for absolutely ages, but we are back. We are back with a new podcast edition, and what a time to be back. Bangladesh cricket seems to be riding on the crest of a wave at the moment, seem to be beating teams for fun. And of course, they have just beaten Australia for the very first time in an ODI bilateral series. Well, I say they've beaten Australia and they've taken an unassailable 2-0 lead in the series. And that's what we're going to be talking about principally today. And to talk about that series, got a great guest with me. She's represented Australia 187 times across all formats. Very much a broadcaster in her own right at the moment. She's in Bangladesh, commentating on the series at the moment. Let's bring her in. It's Lisa Sthalekar. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you. Nice to be on.
Great to have you on. I mean, let's get straight into it. I mean, being an Australian, some of this might be a bit painful for you. I appreciate, but yeah, let's get into it, I suppose. So, as I was saying at the start there, I mean, Bangladesh, they've waited 21 years initially to beat Australia. And then they do it twice in the space of just a few days. I mean, fantastic result for them. But from an Australian point of view, I mean, yeah, I mean, just generally from your point of view, how have you seen the series? What are your kind of general impressions?
Yeah, look, Bangladesh are enjoying a lot of success lately. When you look at their previous series against West Indies, New Zealand, Pakistan, they've all been able to secure victories. They're winning the key moments when it really matters. And the test was going to be Australia. Now, the Australian team isn't probably at its full strength, but still the Australian teams tend to have a bit of an aura. Players are used to winning the battles out there, and there's a bit of bravado that comes with an Australian side, but they've been literally outplayed in all three facets. Bangladesh have been able to read the conditions really well, adapt on the fly, and be willing to take the game on and take the Australians on. And they've put them in uncomfortable situations, whether it be from a batting point of view or even from a bowling point of view.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, agree with all of that. They've certainly put the Aussies under the pump. And I guess it's interesting what you say there about kind of Australia maybe kind of losing some of that aura, some of that sheen of excellence and being champions. And I mean, we'll get into some of the key moments in some of the matches, I suppose. But one thing that let's just start off with at the top, which kind of, well, my reaction to it wasn't necessarily to raise an eyebrow, but I thought, oh, well, that's interesting, was the send-off in that first ODI of Josh Inglis, Rana getting him out, and then a few words were kind of spoken. It was a little bit of something about nothing. I think in the end, Josh Inglis, I think, kind of turned around to have a few words back maybe, and then it all got sorted quite quickly. But I guess just the fact that, Bangladesh bowlers are giving the Aussies a bit of a send-off, it's not something we necessarily have seen in the past.
No, probably not. But Rana is coming in and he's fresh and he's young and he's fast, exceptionally fast. I mean, we spoke about it on the broadcast that 45% of his deliveries are registering over 145 kilometers an hour. I mean, that's impressive in itself. Normally you see one or two deliveries within an over kind of hit those limits, but he's regularly doing that. So he's got the Australian batters hopping around a little bit, to be fair. And I guess if you look historically, Bangladesh have had to fight their way to kind of get recognition, to get the opportunities to even play some of these test playing nations, especially coming over into Bangladesh as well. So when you've got the moment and you feel like you're on top, I love it. I thought it was great. This is fierce cricket. It's international cricket. You're playing for your country. You want it to mean something to the players. And so I was a bit disappointed that he was reprimanded by ICC for that, because I think I think as fans, we want to see a bit of passion. We want players to take it upon themselves to try and get up on over the top of another player, and sometimes that means a little bit of confrontation, a bit of staring at each other, maybe a few words, as long as it doesn't cross the line, of course. But yeah, I thought it just gave you an indication that Bangladesh are here to play and look out.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I as a fan, who doesn't enjoy that kind of confrontation, as you say, as long as there's nothing untoward, which I don't think there was in that instance. And actually, I'd say it's something that Bangladesh have kind of been doing, not in the sense of provoking opposition players necessarily, but just in the sense of being kind of aggressive and kind of in your face and up front. We saw it actually in the recent Test series against Pakistan. There was a lot of chat between Liton Das and Mohammad Rizwan during that series, which I'm absolutely with you. I think it makes a great spectacle. I think that's the sort of thing that fans want to see. They want to see kind of competition, competitive cricket, which it absolutely is. Just picking up on a couple of things you were saying there. Yeah, again, I agree. I think Bangladesh historically have had to kind of fight for kind of fixtures against, the so-called bigger teams. And yeah, it's interesting. I suppose, everyone's talking about that 21-year gap between ODI victories against Australia. And I guess one of the reasons why it's taken them that long is that they simply do not play one another very often. If I did my research properly, I'd be able to tell you the exact number of times they've played in the last 20 years or so. But I'm pretty sure, yes, they meet in World Cups, but I think the number of bilateral series has been kind of few and far between. Kind of interests me. Actually, let's go back and kind of have a bit of a deeper look at both of the games. Why don't we do that? So, as I was saying, the first game, Bangladesh won. Well, they won both games on DLS. There's been a bit of rain around in Dhaka. Maybe, Lisa, you can give us a weather update in terms of...
Yeah, there's a big storm at the moment. So you're lucky that there hasn't been a clap of thunder that has come through on the mic effect. So, yeah, it's... I guess we're getting close to monsoon. So, most times during the night or during the day, there's going to be this build-up. So I would expect we're going to probably see the third ODI as well affected by rain.
Sure, yeah, it's I'd say it's an unusual time of year maybe to be playing international cricket in Bangladesh because of that exact reason, but that's where we are. I guess it's a hectic international kind of calendar and everything needs to be squeezed in. But going back to the two games, then the first game, Bangladesh won by 86 runs. The second, again, DLS adjusted target that that Bangladesh were facing. They got there quite comfortably in the end. I thought there might have been a slight wobble in the chase there once they'd lost that sort of fifth wicket, but I think Tawhid Ridoy kind of guided them home quite nicely in the end, winning that by 5 wickets, plenty of balls and overs to spare there. But just going back to that first game, Mossadegh Hossain winning the Player of the Match award. Probably a player, I'm guessing, Lisa, that you might not have seen an awful lot about. The thing that interests me, I mean, I can fill you in. The thing that interests me about him is, well, in Bangladesh cricket in general, you don't see a lot of players who are you do see a lot of players who burst onto the scene, make a bit of an impression, and then they might fail to really establish themselves, and then they do kind of just disappear. There's lots of examples of that, I'd say. But Mossadegh Hussain, interesting in that he spent quite a long time in the wilderness, 4 years, I think, since his previous ODI appearance. He first came to prominence, I'd say, 2019 World Cup. He was part of that team that took part in the World Cup here in the UK. But like I say, failed to really establish himself. But I'd say from a positive point of view, it's just initially very good news that Bangladesh cricket are picking players who have performed well domestically. I know he's gone away. He's done very well in domestic List A cricket, got those runs under his belt, come back in. But just from your point of view, just seeing him in that first ODI, what were your impressions?
Yeah, so coming into this series, I tried to do a bit of research on the players that Bangladesh had selected, and obviously he was the standout name, given the fact that he hadn't been in the Bangladesh side for the last 4 years. But and you mentioned it about selectors going and looking at domestic cricket, and the Dhaka Premier League is, I think, just finishing today, maybe is the final, or in the next couple of days. And over the course of 3 seasons, he's been a huge run scorer and wicket taker with the ball. So he's gone back, worked hard at his game, improved it, and had consistent performances for a number of years, not just one-off tournament or one season. And as a player, when you kind of left out of the side, all you can do is try and get back in with the weight of your performances. And then on the pleasing side is, and this is where I think sometimes a player who has been dropped and has fought their way back in shows a lot of resilience and a better understanding of their game. And what we saw in the first ODI was exactly that, someone who is acutely aware of his skill set and what he can do to the opposition. He was well planned, well organised. I think after the first ODI, he said the management gave him full confidence to play his natural game, not to change that, and then also helped and guided him when he needed to go up to 5th gear. And we saw a switch hit, and we saw him take on Adam Zampa, I think, where he hit a 4 and a 6. And Bangladesh maybe in the past, and I haven't watched a lot of the team play white ball cricket, but maybe in the past when they've lost a few wickets, they kind of fall off the cliff, so to speak. But he enabled them to put on 284, I think it was in the end, which was certainly too many runs from an Australian point of view. So, and then, he comes in with the ball in hand. He's very clever in what he does. He fires the ball in. He changes pace when he needs to, and he was able to execute and then took a really good catch to finish the match off, I think. So what a great way to repay the selectors' faith in you by being able to produce a performance like that against a team that you haven't seen very often and you don't have a great record against.
Absolutely. Lisa, the other thing I wanted to kind of touch on, and we've kind of spoken about it briefly already in terms of Tawhid Rana, but more generally, this narrative of a kind of a fast bowling revolution that's taking place, or even that has already taken place, you might say, in Bangladesh, because actually, it's probably something that's been brewing, I'd say, probably for at least the last 5 or 6 years in terms of developing a real kind of battery of fast bowlers. And I think, they're in a place now where there are sort of 6, maybe even 7 fast bowlers who are all of a very good kind of quality and standard. But again, from your point of view, from the outside looking in, obviously Bangladesh, always known for producing spinners, even more specifically left arm spin has dominated Bangladesh cricket for so long. But for you, I guess it must be kind of refreshing and maybe even surprising to see what's happened.
Yeah, well, I saw Nahid Rana in the Pakistan Super League. And Mustafa Fazur Rahman was also there in the PSL. So, and obviously I've seen him in IPL for a number of years. And so he's still turning out and reinventing himself to be really effective in the format, which is great to see. But Nahid Rana, Taskin Ahmed, these are guys that, and I think you mentioned at the start about pitch and the curators and what an important role they have to play. And it's more at a domestic level, because what has probably normally been the case predominantly in the subcontinent, maybe not Pakistan because they love their fast bowlers, but they produce spin-friendly wickets because most of the players are spinners. And so most, like I know in the Ranji Trophy, probably 10 years ago, they'd only ever go with one pace bowler and the rest would be spinners. But in domestic cricket, if you can create a surface that allows all bowlers an opportunity, then you're developing their skills to be able to bowl first spell, second spell, third spell, not just with the new ball, with the old ball. Can we get it reverse? What do I do if the pitch is flat? Have I got another option? And when you start to do that, then you'll see the balance of the sides and playing 11s change, and then they're getting better at their skill set. Batters are being challenged. Everyone kind of wins, and now you're seeing. And I spoke to the head curator here at Mirpur, and he was saying, I'm not necessarily instructed by the captain anymore to say give us this pitch. He's now been entrusted to put out the best pitch for a good even contest against two quality sides. So what that means is there's good pace, there's good bounce, there's turn for the spinners, and it's got, it's compact, which means the batters, if they find the middle of the bat, there's going to be a fast outfield, they're going to score runs. So everyone should be happy with pitches like that. So because of that, I think, and because of that revolution, you're starting to see good quality fast bowlers coming through Bangladesh. And I can't wait. My mouth is watering for what they can possibly do on Australian shores in August when they take on the test team up in Darwin and Mackay.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Top end series as well should be a good one. And let's hope that those fast bowlers can perform as well as they have been recently. Just to finish off, I guess, on pitch chat. It's been an interesting time. Well, the last kind of week or so, certainly in the UK, dominated by Ben Stokes a lot of the cricket chat, but other than that, it's been dominated by pitch chat, and the Lord's pitch has been classed, as, I can't remember the official term, but not up to scratch basically by the match referee following that first test against New Zealand. So it just goes to show how difficult it is, I guess, to get pitches right sometimes. And the second thing I'd say, it's really interesting what's happening in Bangladesh in terms of pitches, because it was only less than a year ago. So I was in Bangladesh last October for the West Indies series, and there was an ODI at Mirpur at Dhaka that produced 92 overs of spin. So, we've come quite a long way in quite a short space of time in that context, I guess, which is good. Let's hope we continue on that path. Lisa, before you go, I can't not let you go without talking about the T20 World Cup. We are just hours away from the first match, so we're recording this just a few hours before England take on Sri Lanka in the opening match of the T20 World Cup. A T20 World Cup in the UK, the first Women's World Cup we've had here since 2017. But I guess the couple of questions I wanted to ask you about, I guess specifically on Australia and their chances. We know they've got a relatively new captain. I wouldn't say it's a team in transition as such, far from it, but retirement of Elisa Healy, a huge thing within Australia cricket, no doubt. And it seems for the first time in a very long time, people aren't naturally assuming that Australia are going to walk it.
Yeah, that's correct. I think this is the most open T20 World Cup that I can think of, because normally, the first time the women have played the T20 World Cup, their edition was 2009 in England. So we've come full circle. We're back in England, and in previous editions, there's always been one or two or three front runners. Whereas I look at the playing 11, or the squad, should I say, of a number of countries, and it's hard to go by that. There could be potentially 5 teams that could easily lift the trophy. So it's not a done deal for any of them. Certainly New Zealand is the current holders, and they're kind of sending off 3 greats of their game, Susie Bates, Leah Tahuhu, and Sophie Devine, and no doubt they'll be wanting to send them off in the best possible way. But then you've also got England, who for a long period of time, whenever they've held a big women's global event, they've actually won it. So 2017, they won the World Cup there. 2009, they won the first edition of the T20 World Cup. So, can the crowd get around them, and they kind of rise to the occasion? And then you've got India, who also just won the 50-over World Cup, and they're a very confident group of players at the moment that have won key moments in semi-finals and finals, and they've normally faltered in those previous occasions, normally when they've come up against Australia, but they were able to kind of get the monkey off their back in the semi-final of the 50-over World Cup last year. And then, of course, you go to Australia, who have a funny knack of always ensuring that they're there and thereabouts, because they've got quality players that know how to win crucial games of cricket. It's about being able to stitch it all together, and probably ensure that their best 11 is on the field. And that may not necessarily be the case because of injuries. Sophie Molyneux, you mentioned about her as the captain. She probably hasn't been able to kind of put a stake in the ground and say, I'm a strong person and leader for international cricket for this team, because she's been in and out of the side because she's been injured. But certainly there is no hesitation that she's the right person for the job. I just hope that her body wants to join in on the party and allow her to play the full tournament. So I really do hope that's the case for her. And then to me, there's a South Africa, who have been in the last 3 ICC finals, 50 over or T20. And they've been able to cajole Shabnim Ismail out of retirement. Dane van Niekerk is back in amongst it as well. So it's like the old group have come together. And if they all click, geez, they're going to be a dangerous side. And the one probably dark horse, and I'll be fascinated to see how this match goes, the first match, is Sri Lanka. I think, they've come up against teams in the build-up to this and have beaten an England, they've beaten a New Zealand, and they don't lie solely on Chamari Adipatu. They've got a number of other players. So, yeah, it's going to be an intriguing World Cup.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's great to see kind of newer, not necessarily newer teams, but developing teams progressing at a good rate of knots, like Sri Lanka. And yeah, as you were saying, I think that group that India, Australia and South Africa are in is going to be fascinating. I mean, one of those 3 teams will be knocked out before the semi-final stage, so that's going to be fascinating to see how they go. Just the last question, I guess, on the World Cup that I had was on Bangladesh. So I've spoken to Jyoti a few times. I was speaking to her about a week or so ago. It's their first World Cup in the UK. Well, it's the first time they've ever played in England. They've never played in the UK before. They had a tri-series up in Edinburgh a week or two ago. Very mixed results there. Ended up losing to Scotland, lost the game to the Netherlands as well. But I guess the question I had for you is, yeah, I agree there seems to be, 4 or 5 teams with realistic kind of expectations of maybe winning it. I guess, what chances are there of an upset of a team like Bangladesh or Scotland to kind of, really cause an upset over one of the bigger teams? Do you see that happening at all?
Yeah, I certainly do. T20 cricket brings a lot of teams together. The longer the format, the more skills involved. Sometimes there's nowhere to hide. But if 1 or 2 players have their day out, then in a T20 game, that could be it. That could be it for the opposition. I guess having watched Bangladesh a number of times at these ICC events, it's always been, they're quite skillful from a bowling point of view. It's just from a batting point of view is where are their runs coming from? It can't always be Jyoti scoring the runs. There's got to be a number of other players, and they've got to go at a quick rate. The game has moved on. A strike rate of 110 now is not good enough. 120, even question marks. I know the Australian team, the top order, they talk about 140 being the minimum. So and I guess you would know a little bit more, what's the domestic structure like in Bangladesh for those players? Are they being tested that way? Yeah, so, the questions are, what can be done here at a domestic level to expose those players, to learn those skill sets, and then put them into practice in a probably a less threatening environment instead of the world stage of a World Cup where they've got to try and compete against these nations. I think predominantly you've got, Marufa Akhtar, you've got players that are very skillful, but I still come back to, can they score enough runs? And that's probably the biggest gap that I see with Bangladesh and probably the stronger or the higher ranked teams.
Sure, absolutely. Well, fingers crossed they might cause an upset, and they can cause an upset. They're playing Australia up at Headingley, Leeds. Maybe a rain-reduced game, a 6-over shootout.
You never know.
I mean, the weather's been pretty abysmal here for the last week or so. So who knows?
Have you already had your summer? Is that the issue?
Well, there was a heat wave, yeah, but it was too brief, and I mean, well, actually, the forecast is looking pretty good from kind of this weekend onwards. So fingers crossed, there's lots of warm sunshine for the tournament, because actually, a lot of the time, sporting events in the UK, they need good weather. It kind of makes or breaks them. Certainly from just an interest, a crowd, general kind of interest point of view. So yes, let's hope for that. Okay. But Lisa, thanks again for coming on. Been absolutely great to get your insights from you today. And thanks again for your time.
No worries.
Cheers. Thank you as well, everyone, for watching and listening to this edition of the Sightscreen Cricket Journal podcast. If you want to follow what I do, best place is to have a look on X, to take a look at Sightscreen CJ, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye for now.